When life gets busy, pause, take a breath, and reset your mind. Download Mindset and listen to your favorite inspirational speeches to unlock your full potential.
Tonight, I want to tell you 3 fantasies, all of which have something in common. The first fantasy is about reproduction. We use the word reproduction in 2 principal ways. When we talk about the biological reproduction of the species, and when we talk about making a good reproduction of something in terms of a painting, a photograph, or a recording, or a videotape. Hundreds of years ago, kings of Europe who wanted to form feudal alliances by marrying the princesses of far-off states would have painters send portraits of the lady in question to see if His Majesty approved of her before he got her. And therefore there grew up a kind of morale among artists in the European tradition, and they perfected their technique, beginning with the marvelous work of the Renaissance painters and the Flemish painters, and going on finally to what was called art officielle in the 19th century. We got what we now call photographic realism. But then they said, isn't there some more scientific way of doing this? And so they discovered the camera. But then they went on to say, but you know, there are some people whose whole style of life, whose personality is in the way they move. So they said, we got to have some way of making people move. So they invented the movies. They said, wow, now we're really getting somewhere. Then, to make it even more real, they put it in 3D. But then they went on to say, why is it that every time we want to see one of these things, we have to go down the center of town? Can't we have it all at home? And so television came on. And then they improved it, and then they colored it, and that's where we are now. Not quite. Because somebody has come out with the thing that we shall all be seeing soon, which is the hologram. A television image produced by laser beams, where you see a 3-dimensional figure out in the air in front of you. I say, isn't that marvelous? Whew. And then, but of course, when you go up to it and you put your hand on it, your hand goes right through it. You can't touch it. It's intangible, it doesn't smell, and it won't relate to you. And so, eventually, we will get absolutely perfect reproduction. And we will be able to see that image so vividly that we shall become it. And so the question arises, could that be where we are already? Are we a reproduction which over the centuries of evolution has worked out to be a replica of something else that was going on, and we are where we always were? Now the next fantasy concerns the idea that every living being thinks it's human. And that means a plant, a worm, a virus, a bacterium, a fruit fly, a rabbit. That all these beings, wherever they feel out from, as we feel out from our bodies, feel that they're in the middle. That is to say, wherever you look, you turn your head around, and you feel you're in the middle of the world. You feel you're the center. And it has around it a company of associates who look like it. And therefore, this creature knows that these are the right people, just as we know when we look at human beings. They're the right people. They are one of us. But every organism that has any sensitivity in it whatsoever considers itself to be the center of the universe. You see, it doesn't matter in what form you begin, whether you begin again as a human being or as a fruit fly, a butterfly, or a beetle. It feels the same way that you feel now. So we're really all in the same place. We all have above us things much higher than ourselves. And we all have below us things that we feel are much lower than ourselves, just as there are things out there on the left and things out there on the right, and things in front and things behind. Because you're the middle. You're the middle everywhere, always. Now, my third fantasy. It seems to me really seriously asks the question, how do stars begin? Now, let's suppose, then, that a planet is one star's way of becoming another star. You know, stars, when they explode, they send a lot of goo out into space. And some of this goo solidifies into balls which get in orbit and spin round the star. And in one chance in 1,000, maybe, one of those balls will become like the planet Earth, and slowly upon it will arise what some people might call a disease called the bacteria of intelligent life. So that may be, you see, how stars originate. They have planets, like chickens have eggs, and the eggs burst and turn into chicken. And planets burst through the agency of intelligent life and turn into stars, which throw out other mud balls. Now, I tell you, this is a fantasy. But you may ask me, isn't it a rather unpleasant fantasy? Aren't things going the wrong way, the wrong direction? The whole point of life, I mean, this tender biological substance with all its tubes and filaments and nerves, which is so very sensitive, if all this is to end up in fire, into an absolute blaze of light, don't we say, oh, what a shame? Is that the way it ends? Now, if you think about this for a while, you see, I put forward three fantasies, all of which have a cyclic quality. We reproduce, not only biologically, but we reproduce artistically. If you always and always and always remembered everything, you see, you would be like a piece of paper which had been painted over and painted over and painted over until there was no space left and you wouldn't be able to distinguish between one thing and another. It's like when a whole bunch of people start to scream and make noises and out-scream each other, and soon you can hear nobody. So in that way, one's memories become screams, and nature mercifully arranges that the whole thing be erased, and you begin again.